having savings simply means that you have some cash on hand that you haven't spent yet. Others define savings as money that's stocked away in a money market account or certificate of deposit, awaiting a rainy day, while others might say that extra payments they make to their debts above and beyond the minimum monthly payment amounts should count as type of savings. Saving is not the absence of spending. It's the intentional act of setting money aside for a specific goal or purpose, or for general life events like buying a house, saving for college, raising children, and etc. There are many definitions of savings. Others are it refers to the money that a person has left over after they subtract out their consumer spending from their disposable income over a given time period. So savings therefore represents a net surplus for funds for an individual or household after all expenses and obligations have been paid. So like if you have a certain income and you have your daily needs, so you need to buy your daily needs and you need to pay your daily bills. After that, after you spend it all to your expenses, that remaining or certain money left over in your account is your savings. So that is what saving means. So after tackling about what is savings, let us now proceed to this unfamiliar term which they called as paradox of thrifts. So now let's dichotomize the two terms that is involved in the paradox of thrift. It's the paradox and thrift. So first let's define what is paradox. So paradox is intended contrary to a received opinion. So it's like when you are argumenting something, of course there's someone who's contradict into it. Or it's like a statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense and yet it's perhaps true. Another is the thrift, or it's like a healthy and vigorous growth of your savings, or the careful savings of your money. John Maynard Keynes, who published his influential work, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, in 1936, noted saving can ultimately be detrimental to the economy because of the paradox of thrift. This theory argues that if everyone individually cuts spending to increase saving, aggregate saving will eventually fall because one person's spending is someone else's income. Because increased saving by definition decreases current consumption and it stifles demand. A simple example can illustrate this paradox. So let's assume that I want to buy a new computer. So I start saving an extra 100 to 500 pesos each month that I would otherwise spend going out by eating. So by choosing not to spend that 500 pesos, I deny the wait staff at my favorite restaurant, for example Jollibee, some work hours and like giving them tips or so. That tips would serve as the increased income of that particular business or that particular worker, right? So as a result, these workers also have to reduce their consumption because they are earning less. Why? Because I am saving more. And from that saving, from that saving that was supposedly be spent in my um, meal, and sometimes I give them tips so that particular person without me would have no tips too. So that's why his or her earnings would be lesser. And if society follows the saving pattern, this could affect ultimately and lead to decreased consumer spending and lower income for everyone. So that's why Keynes argued output would decrease and therefore limit economic growth or recovery until, of course, I bought my new computer with the money that I've saved. The paradox of thrift is a concept that if many individuals decide to increase their private saving rates, it can lead to a fall in general consumption and lower output. Therefore, although it might, take or make sense for an individual to save more, a rapid rise in national private savings can harm economic activity and can be damaging to overall economy. In a recession, we often see this paradox of thrift, faced with the prospect of recession and unemployment. So people take the reasonable step to increase their personal saving and cut back in spending. However, this fall in consumer spending leads to decrease in aggregate demand and therefore lower economic growth.